Okay, I believe we're at 8:30. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. I'd like to welcome you all here tonight to the Conscious Contact Group. What do I got to remind you of? I guess you're all familiar with our Facebook page, and our speakers are placed on YouTube. That's really great to find out. Food and fellowship here is 8 o'clock. Try to get here early because we like to talk to you. And don't forget the meeting after the meeting. Hang out with us and we'll see if we can help you find some people that you can connect with and be part of this group. And we have a lot of fun with this every Saturday night. Nick's going to come up here and share. We got a pretty exciting night for you guys. Thanks.
Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Nick and I am an alcoholic. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street at 8:30 p.m. in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 right here. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? All right. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Excellent. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Yes, sir.
Kyle Alcohol.
Hey, Kyle.
It's Sunday night meeting in Marylandville at 8 p.m. It's open now. It's upstairs, though, because of the flood.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for your service. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see myself or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big book and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD Donations. If you would like a CD of any speaker past or present, please see me or any home group member before or after the meeting, and they are available free of charge. And now with that, I have Kyle to come up and read the AA preamble.
Hi, I'm Kyle, an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. I've asked Eric to lead the 12 steps.
Hi, my name is Eric and I'm an alcoholic. These are the AA 12 steps of recovery. Step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And at this time, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to Nick so we can introduce our speaker.
We have a 7 tradition which states every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we would love to pass the baskets. We have no dues or fees. We do have expenses. This group provides many services, and your donations cover rent, big book, CDs, events, and workshops. Once again, there is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and try to limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And now to introduce our speaker, a good friend of the Conscious Contact speaker group, Paul McQ, straight from Ireland, Rockaway Beach, New York.
Hi, my name is Paul. I'm an alcoholic. I don't know if I'm straight from Ireland, but I'm here anyway, and it's good to be here, and it's good to be sober. And I want to thank Bob for taking the trip with me. We were driving here from Rockaway Beach, New York City, and I don't know if you know Rockaway Beach, New York. It's a big Irish-American neighbourhood. In fact, people are not even in AA. They'll go, oh, Rockaway Beach, the Irish Riviera, you know, but we know it better than Alcoholics Anonymous is cirrhosis by the sea. Now, there's more alcoholics per square foot in Rockaway Beach. In fact, there's 2 types of people in Rockaway Beach. Those that are in AA and those that should be in AA, you know. And in fact, I was on a Zoom meeting one night, and this lady says, I'm from Rockaway Beach, Oregon, and we're famous for inventing the corn dog. What is Rockaway Beach, New York famous for? I says, falling asleep drunk, face down in the sand, you know what I mean? Like, that's what we're pretty much famous for. But it's so good to be here. We're driving in, I'm like, we're off the road and driving further and further, and I said to Bob, I said, well, these people in the AA Witness Protection Program, you know what I mean? I know we're anonymous, but this is ridiculous, you know, and I called my sponsor just before the meeting there, and he said to me, where are you? I said, I'm in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. And he says, you went all the other way to talk? How far would you go to listen? You know what I mean? Like, you know, and I didn't like that question. But I told him I loved him, which is pretty growth for me as an Irish guy in Alcoholics Anonymous. Before I came to AA, I was a bit like the Irish guy that loved his wife so much that he almost told her. You know what I'm saying? So I've really grown a lot. I've grown a lot in Alcoholics Anonymous, but listen, I'm not here to sell Alcoholics Anonymous tonight. It sells itself. It's attraction, not promotion. But I'll tell you this, and I don't mean cash and prizes. You cannot get where I'm standing tonight from where I came from without Alcoholics Anonymous. It's an impossible journey. And why do I continue to come to AA? I know how the movie goes, but I wouldn't miss it. To see someone walking in those doors on the worst night of their life and be given the grace not to drink. And Alcoholics Anonymous is so much more than grace, it's mercy. And the definition of mercy I like the best is entering into the chaos of another person's life. And that's exactly what Alcoholics Anonymous did for me back in August of 1992. When the few people left in my life, and I mean few, was going that way, the only people coming this way was Alcoholics Anonymous. And they carried this message. My message might even keep me sober. They carried this message. And for anybody that's new here tonight, what is the message of Alcoholics Anonymous? When complete defeat through alcohol, step 1. I got a body that won't let me drink, and a mind that won't let me stop. One drink creates a thirst I can't quench. When I control my drinking, I don't enjoy it. And when I start to enjoy my drinking, I can't control it. With your help, I haven't had a drink, as I said, from August of 92. One drink tonight, destination unknown. That's what showed up here in Alcoholics Anonymous. And you took this guy from a place of powerlessness and unmanageability, not to a place where I'm powerful, but a place where I have access to power 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. An unlimited supply. So as I said there, you cannot get where I'm standing tonight from where I came from without Alcoholics Anonymous. So I want to welcome anybody that's new. This is the last thing I tried, and the first thing ever worked. I tried many ways of stopping drinking. I could stop, but I couldn't stay stopped. What Alcoholics Anonymous has given me that I can't never pay them back for is they've given me something between me and the first drink. Before I came to AA, the thought of a drink would become the obsession to drink, an idea that crowds out all other ideas. And I'd find myself drinking. Right here, right now. I don't know about tomorrow, but right here, right now, because of Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm 12 steps away from a drink. And that's only because of AA. You hear people say you're just an arm's length away from a drink. I suppose that's true, but right here, right now, I'm 12 steps away from a drink. But I found out the hard way in AA that they're not 12 steps up to anything. They're 12 steps down to humility. I seen people drink again in AA that I thought would never drink again. And that tells me it's a daily reprieve, not a lifetime pardon. And the day that I think I've got this in my back pocket, good to go, is the day I'm getting ready to get drunk again. A friend of mine got drunk after a long time in AA. He says, you know how you get drunk in AA? You start giving those steps back one step at a time. Take your will back in 3, become insane in 2. So insane you tell yourself you're not an alcoholic and get drunk in the first step. But right here, right now, like our book says, I'm safe and protected. And it's so good in life to know who you are and where you belong. I'm an alcoholic and I belong in Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't fight the booze anymore. I was surrendered by the bottle to the bottle. I belong in Alcoholics Anonymous. And everything I need to know, I found out at my first meeting that my name is Paul, I'm an alcoholic. But that tells me who I am, what I am, where I am, what I need to be doing. And if I make that the central fact of my life, things around may not be all right. If I'm waiting for things around me to be okay before I'm okay. And thank God they told me that when I got to AA. They says, Paul, we're not going to tell you your life's going to get better, but you stay here and you'll get better. And that's been my experience in Alcoholics Anonymous. So they said here, I'm richly blessed to be here. Why I got sober? I don't know. I'm not entitled to be sober. It's not my right to be sober. I bartended the last 5 years drinking, and I bartended the first 12 years in AA. I'll tell you something you probably realise. Most alcoholics die drunk. They don't even see AA. And here I am standing here tonight, self-centered in the extreme. My Holy Trinity was always me, me, me. And I'm standing here sober in Alcoholics Anonymous tonight. And AA has never asked me to do very much. They didn't ask me to find a cure for cancer or be the first guy to go to Mars. All AA has ever asked me to do is to stay sober and help another alcoholic. That's all they've ever asked me to do. And in doing that, I've been so grossly overpaid, it's almost embarrassing. And I don't mean cash and prizes. Things of real value. The Irish writer Oscar Wilde said, he knew the price of everything and the value of nothing. And Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me things of real value. And it's so good to be here. And to know where you belong. I belong in Alcoholics Anonymous. This is not going to be all Irish writers, but James Joyce says, and he's talking about Dublin, but it's so indicative of AA. He says, here comes everybody. You look around, we're all here. Gender, colour, creed, it doesn't matter. If I want to get to know somebody outside of AA, I might have to ask them, hey, where did you grow up? And what school did you go to? And what do you like to do? Not in AA. You tell me you're an alcoholic, I don't need to know any more. I know you've experienced terror, frustration, bewilderment, despair. I know you put a drink to your lips as the tears roll down your face. And for goodness sake, at the end of my drinking, I drank against my own will. I know that because you tell me you're an alcoholic, and I know that because I'm an alcoholic. And I love this thing of AA. There's one lifeboat. I go to meetings a lot in Northern Ireland. I grew up outside of Belfast. And they talk about we are people who normally wouldn't mix. Well, back in Northern, we're people who never mix. But there's one place that Catholics and Protestants sit together. They sit together in meetings of AA. And the Catholics know who the Protestants are, and the Protestants know who the Catholics are. But all that stuff that seems so important is left out in the parking lot where it belongs. And we talk about our common problem and our common solution. I just love that fact of AA. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about how it was and what happened and how it is today. And hopefully by about 11:30, 11:45, I should be able to wrap it all up, And see the newcomers getting nervous, Is this what they mean by willing to go to any lengths, I don't know why I'm an alcoholic. Was it nature? Was it nurture? Was I a symptom looking for disease? Was I born an alcoholic? Did I become an alcoholic? I could care less. Our big book says we cannot answer the riddle. I don't have, like I said, at the Pentagon, I don't have security clearance for that information. I mean, if God walked into this meeting, right, well, he doesn't have to walk in, he's here already. But if God told me exactly why I'm an alcoholic, nothing would really change in my life. I'd still wake up tomorrow morning and say my prayers and thank God for being sober and make calls and take calls and go to meetings. Nothing would really change. It's funny, I was on a Zoom meeting one night and I'm sitting in the back bedroom and I said, if God walked in that door, and just then the door opened and my wife walked in, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, you got to be kidding me, And she goes, that's right, that's who I am, But I just accept the fact that I'm an alcoholic today. But I think back in Northern Ireland where I grew up in a neighbourhood, if you didn't drink, you moved. Everybody drank. It wasn't like, it was not uncommon to see public drunkenness in my neighbourhood on a Saturday night. And I've heard people tell different stories to the podium. Some people were successful. Some people had a motive of success and then they crossed the invisible line. That's not my story. I took my first drink at 15 years of age with a bunch of older guys, and Carl Jung said that alcoholism can be characterized as a low-grade spiritual thirst. And I can identify with that. Even before I took drink, when I was over there, I wanted to be over here. When I was upstairs, I wanted to be downstairs. The shine would wear off things very quickly. My life was characterized by a lot of, oh, this is it. No, that's not it either. Oh, no, this is it. Always at that stone in the shoe feeling. And then I took that first drink. And you've heard the different metaphors, black and white, the colour. And I mean, it talks about in their book that normal or heavy drinkers drink because of what alcohol does to them. A sense of conviviality and companionship. I drink because what alcohol does for me. Alcohol does something for me that it doesn't do for a normal or even a heavy drinker. One drink changes how I feel about me, you, and this. And that's why I'm going to come back for more. It doesn't matter what the consequences are. I remember a guy telling me one time, and I didn't like this question. He said, do you want to stop drinking? Or do you just want the consequences of your drinking to stop? See, I want to drink with impunity, lack of punishment, like the doctor's opinion says. But I'm not that person. From day one, there was problems with my drinking. I took that drink and within 6 months, I'm getting my stomach pumped out. Hadn't even turned 16 in the local hospital on a school night. And they told my parents, it's a good job you brought him here. He probably would have died of alcoholic poisoning. And it just got worse. It got worse and it got worse and it got worse. But for anybody that's new here tonight, sobriety's progressive as well. And as far now as you go with drink, you can come back up on it. And I'm not going to stand up here like some snake oil salesman and promise you the moon and the stars. There's things I lost through drinking and they didn't come back. And there's things you might have lost through drinking. Thank God for these beautiful steps. Who among us could live with the guilt and the shame and remorse of our drinking if it wasn't for the 12 steps to alleviate that? I wasn't a sociopath. I knew the bridges I burned, the doors I slammed, the people I walked away from. I can't change the past, but because of this program, I was able to come to terms with my past. And my life's fallen apart in quick order in Northern Ireland, but I never want to look in. I'm a finger pointer. I'm always into the blame game. At this time in Northern Ireland, there was like a low-level civil war going on that euphemistically was referred to as the Troubles, the Troubles, You gotta love the Irish for understatement, And I'm a working-class Catholic from the wrong side of the tracks. And I'm always looking for an outside fix for what's really an inside job. If I could just get the right this and the right relationship. It's no coincidence I'm standing in America with an Irish accent. I was a runner, a long-distance runner. I was later found out in sobriety that every time I ran away from life, I was the guy firing the starting pistol. And I came home to my father one night, typical alcoholic. You know how we're so dramatic. I sit down and I said, Dad, sit down, I got some bad news for you. He says, what is it? I said, I'm going to America, and don't try and talk me out of it. He says, talk you out of it, I'll help you pack. On you go, Columbus, you know what I'm saying? Let me give you some folly advice. Turn left at Greenland, you know what I'm saying? So I packed my bags and I arrived in New York City, but the first thing I packed out of the bag was me and my alcoholism. Now there was nobody saying, hey, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, what are you doing with a drink in your hand? And I could drink the way I always wanted to drink, which was like an animal. As Bill Wilson says in his story, it was like going down a ski jump. 5 years drinking in New York. I was a bartender. I used to work in this, and I know you look at all like very nice people. I worked in a sort of a bar. We had a bouncer on the door, but he was there to throw people into the bar, not throw them out of the bar. You know what I'm saying? This bar, this sort of bar, the sort of a bar, if you want to see a full set of teeth, you need 32 customers. You know this sort of place, sort of high-end place we're talking. And forget about ladies' night. Oh my God. Most of the women that come into this bar look like they put their makeup on when they were jumping up and down on the trampoline. You know what I'm saying? Like it's over here and it's back over here, So I'm in this crazy bar. I used to work from 6 at night to 4 in the morning. Now it's pretty sad actually. I worked in a bar where I could literally walk behind the stick at 6 o'clock at night and pour myself a drink and put it in the speed rack. And the end of my drinking, I couldn't even get there. Fears, phobias, hang-ups, elevators, forget about it. Subway, no way. What's the old saying in AA? Booze give me the wings to fly, and then it took away the sky. The herbaceous creditor that our 12 and 12 talks about. In The Merchant of Venice, Shylock just wanted 1 pound of flesh, not this disease. It'll take your job, your car, my wife, my kids, the shirt off my back. But what it really wants is me 6 feet under. There's a lot of terminal diseases out there. I'm not familiar with those, but I'm familiar with this one. This disease, alcoholism, will kill me stone dead with or without booze in my body. I don't need booze in my body to burn my life to the ground. I almost done it in AA because I wouldn't accept these spiritual principles. I wouldn't accept that there was more wrong with me than drink, and it was going to take more than that just drinking to fix me. But my life's fallen apart, and I hit my first hospital when I was 25. I collapsed in a bar, an alcoholic seizure, and got brought to the local hospital. I'd be brought there multiple times, locked up for a drink, strapped down for a drink, restraining sheets, the whole 9 yards. See, here's the problem for me. I almost went to the graveyard thinking that I had a drinking problem. I found out in AA, it tells you in the big book, that a drinking problem is solved by not drinking. And it gives a couple of examples. A medical reason, a romantic reason, a change of environment. And those people can stop or even moderate. And then I should speak in the singular. It talks about a guy like me. But what about the real alcoholic? See, I didn't realize. I almost went to the graveyard before I found out that I don't have a drinking problem. I have alcoholism. And that's a horse of a different colour. Yes, it's physical. You can't enjoy the benefits of being sober and drink booze at the same time. I know that sounds like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised how many guys try to thread the needle on that one. But it's also mental and spiritual, and in my case wrapped up in a body full of sick emotions. Not drinking, as Bill Wilson says, is a start, but it's just a start. Thank God these guys didn't ask me to help them writing these steps. If I wrote these steps, there'd be 11 and a half steps about drinking and maybe a half a step about recovery. Thank God the first 100, the first half of the first step mentions alcohol. The other 11 and a half steps help me to do what I can't do drunk or sober, and that's live out there one day at a time in God's world under His conditions rather than my demands. And I'll give you one vignette that just sums this up. I'm in another bar on another drunk and I had another seizure and I woke up in the hospital again and they had me in there strapped down. They gave me some Librium to get me off the ceiling. And there's a woman standing at the bedside with this, you know how these alcoholic relationships are, on again, off again. And I took her hand, and I wasn't trying to be cinematic. I took her hand, and I said, listen, it's obvious I can't drink. That's it. I'm done. I'm finished. It's over. I will never, ever drink again. I'm finished. Like Bill Wilson says in his story, self-knowledge. Surely that's the answer. Not for a guy like me. Just knowing I'm an alcoholic isn't going to keep me sober. It's a start. It's good information. But that statement alone will not keep a guy like me sober. Because I left that hospital convinced. That's it. Making a fresh start here. Going to move on with my life. No more drink for me. But I left that hospital and I really didn't know what the problem was, step 1. And I really didn't know what the solution was, step 12. And none of these good people to bring me between the two. One more time, it was me against the first drink. And up to this moment in time tonight, I have never in single-handed combat beaten an obsession to drink. I've got into the ring many times. It's like getting in the ring with a heavyweight champion. A child could say, don't get in the ring. But don't get in the ring means don't take the first drink. And I don't know how not to take the first drink. So I keep getting back in the ring and telling myself, perhaps you can identify, it'll be different this time. I'll watch it. I'll really, really watch this time. What I don't realize is the fight's fixed. There's no way I'm ever going to win this fight. So I left that hospital. If you'd have put me in a lie detector machine in the lobby of that hospital, I would have passed with flying colours. Because I meant it. Not at a visceral level. I'm done. But here's what happens to me when I try to stop drinking. With our 12 steps, 12 traditions, a home group, a sponsor, all this stuff. Unity, service, recovery. A week goes by and I got a week. All of a sudden I've got this stone in my shoe. I don't know where it came from, but it's there all the time. 2 weeks go by, now I've got this knot in my stomach, and it feels like just somebody's turning the screw every day. 3 weeks go by, you get fried eggs in the back of my neck. A month goes by, it feels, I'm not saying it is, but this is a disease of perception, it feels like the walls are closing in on me. Now, I hadn't had a drink for 30 days. You put me in any machine in the world, you will not find a trace of alcohol in my body. But I drank again. I submit to you, that's not a drinking problem, that's a living sober problem. And that's why I need everything that's on offer here, one day at a time, so I can live out there. And I drank again, and nobody was any more, what's it say, the alcoholic, the bewildered one. I couldn't believe I was drinking again. And I would like to tell you that I came to AA a couple of days later. Bottoms, the bottoms, the bottoms. Man. I think I was just talking to Teresa before the meet about my mother. She's in a nursing home in Ireland with dementia. I'm hoping to get over and see her maybe before, when everything with all the stuff that's going on. And my mother, thank God for these steps. I was able to go back down and make amends to my family. I used to be one of these guys, I never heard anybody but oh my God, what understatement of the year. My mother would be going round our neighbourhood in Northern Ireland and asking people who had relatives in New York, would you ask your son if he has seen my son in New York? And just tell him to call home and let us know he's still alive. I remember one Christmas Eve, here was a guy going to make it big in America. I'm living in the Bronx, in a basement, on a mattress. It's Christmas Eve. I had a huge abscess in my mouth. I gathered the money up twice to go to the dentist and drank it both times. I'm lying down there and the thing bursts, blood everywhere, and the phone rings. Now, there's a 5-hour time difference. Ireland's 5 hours ahead. And it was my mother. She tracked me down through some friend of a friend. And she says, Paul, I went to midnight mass tonight. And I prayed for you. And I'm thinking to myself, don't pray for me. I'm beyond the beyond. I ain't coming back. I can't see a way back from there to here. AA could, but I couldn't. I'm telling you, the prayers of the people to get you here. I was home one time on vacation in sobriety, and my mother says, at the local church, she goes, every Wednesday night they would have a prayer group praying for peace in Northern Ireland. And it was ecumenical. They'd have people from the Protestant church and the Catholic church coming together to pray for peace in Northern Ireland. And I'm like about sober a few months, and I'm like, thinking like, I'm on the spiritual hilltop. Maybe I go around here, maybe I can help these people out, with prayer and meditation, Oh my God, I go around to this place, and here's mostly these little old ladies that would pray week after week for years, praying for peace in Northern Ireland. And this little old lady pulled me to the one side that night, and said to me, are you Liz's son? I said, yes, I am. She goes, every week, at the end of our prayer service, they would ask, has anybody got any special intentions, any special prayers? And she would ask prayers for her 2 drunken sons, Paul and Brian. He's got 25 years now in Northern Ireland, and I got 29 years. So do not discount the power of prayer. My week in and week out, offering up, and I'm standing here, so I can't wait to get back and see her. I know she's not doing good, And I didn't get sober that night either. But I'm sober here when I'm talking as a recipient of an old-fashioned 12-step call. I'm in an apartment. I didn't go to Skid Row, but I brought Skid Row to me. I would sit in the apartment for days. You know how it is. If I was awake, I was drinking. Here's a recipe for unhappiness. Lock yourself in an apartment. Close the curtains. Drink round the clock. And play the saddest blues music that you can get your hands on. I would listen to stuff like the great Warren Zevon. If you won't leave me, I'll find somebody that will. You know what I'm saying? The sort of songs that alcoholics like to listen to. Or the Al-Anon version of that song. If you leave me, can I come too? You know what I'm saying? Hope there's nobody here from Al-Anon tonight. I'm just joking. And a piece of paper come under the door. I love when someone's telling their story and it goes down and it goes down, and then they say the most beautiful words in an AA qualification, and then. Those are the most spiritual words, because there's nobody in here sober one day that hasn't had an and then moment. When I hear somebody saying and then, I sit up because I know God's coming in the next sentence. And this is my and then moment. I'm sitting there going at it round the clock, and this piece of paper come under the door. I thought it was an eviction notice. And it had a man's telephone number on it. And it said what I've been hearing since I was 15. Paul, you're a nice guy, but you drink too much. And this man might be able to help you. Now, it's strange enough, a piece of paper coming under your door. The stranger thing is, I called the number. Because I'm Irish, stoic, don't tell nobody nothing. I was a closed circuit. I wasn't getting out, but you weren't getting in. I built these walls high and deep. And I picked up the phone, I called this guy, a complete stranger. And little did I know that would be the guy that would save my life. His name was Jerry C. from the old South Bronx group in New York. And that group had a mantra: we don't give up on anybody. And him and another guy called Johnny K, they're both passed away, would come to my apartment on an old-fashioned 12-step call. Now these guys were just two regular guys. One guy was a subway conductor, the other guy was a commercial removals guy. Just two regular guys, but these two guys were the 12-step champions of the South Bronx group. And they came to my apartment. Now what I thought was going to happen, I thought they were going to come to the apartment and talk about my drinking. Because back in August of 92, the few people left in my life, that's all Paul, we need to talk about your drinking. And I would do the old, like nodding the head. As they were talking to me about my drinking, I'd be thinking to myself, I wish they would shut up so I can go and drink. As they're actually talking to me. And these two guys come over and I let them in. Never met them before in my life. And they sat down. And the strange thing was, they didn't talk about my drinking. They talked about their drinking. And they started to tell story after story of their own drinking. And I kept thinking they're going to do the old... No. And then the magic happened. Our most prized possession, identification. They talked about them, and I found out about me. As Dr. Bob says in his story when he met Bill Wilson, it was the first man he had ever met in his life that he felt fully understood him, and not because he read in the book somewhere. And that's how I felt with these two guys. I felt they've been following me around for the last 3 years. They seem to know more about me than I knew about me. It is not so true. Isn't it ironic in life? Isn't it it's just so beautiful that God would leave the job of getting alcoholics sober to other alcoholics? It makes perfect sense to me, because we don't listen to anybody, but we listen with each other. It's so, of all the people, don't get me wrong, but the doctor treats the symptoms and the alcoholic dies drunk. The psychiatrist looks for the causes and the alcoholic dies drunk. The family tries to treat the effects and the alcoholic dies drunk. Now those things are important, don't get me wrong, but there's a hierarchy of recovery. First things first, and nothing in human history has worked better than one alcoholic talking with another alcoholic to remove themes of differentness, separateness, uniqueness. I am you and you are me. And what happened that day, those two guys came to my apartment. See, a lot of people had talked to me in one ear, out the other. A lot of people talked at me in one ear, out the other. A lot of people had talked down to me. But these guys didn't do that. They talked with me. And that's what I tell myself as an alcoholic. I hope when I'm talking with another, I always talk with an alcoholic. Never to, never at, hopefully never from the spiritual hilltop. It's one alcoholic talking with another. You take AA down to its purest form. If you were to put it in the refiner's fire and bring it down to its purest form, it's one alcoholic talking with another alcoholic. It's the basic DNA of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I think Bill Wilson got that. Bob and I know we're a couple of nerds, but Bill Wilson's sobriety date is December 11th. And just this year, we've done it a few times, we go into Central Park West and we'll sit outside Towns Hospital where Bill Wilson got sober on December 11th, 1934. You can sit on the wall of Central Park. It's not a hospital today, it's an apartment building. We just sat there. Now this year, maybe with COVID, there was nobody. Sometimes you see people with a couple of candles and stuff. There was nobody there. And we just sat there having a little gratitude meeting between ourselves why we're grateful for being sober. And looked across at that building. Now I don't know what happened in there in December 11th of 1934, but something happened. And Bill Wilson, it even says in the doctor's opinion, before he left that hospital, He had that spiritual experience that we read about in the story. But before he left the hospital, he asked Dr. Silkworth if he could talk with the other patients. Now you just think about it. The jokes write themselves. Hold on a second. I mean, the guy that's been detoxed here 3 times, who's just got detoxed the other day, he wants to talk with the other people. But it says in our big book, with serious misgiving, they allowed it to happen. I think Bill Wilson was divinely inspired. I don't know if I would have done that. Before he left that hospital, he realized we didn't have a 12th step, we had no books, with nothing. All we had was each other. And that is so true. But even before he left that hospital, he was trying to practice the 12th step of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's so true in my life. If I'm not finding some way, even during COVID, if I'm not trying to find some way of doing the 12th step of Alcoholics Anonymous, you know what I'm doing? I'm working an 11-step program. You know what an 11-step program is for a guy like me? It's nothing more than a self-help program. It's a highly evolved self-help program, but it's all about me. That 12th step completes that spiritual circuit. Without you, there's no me. If I'm doing AA alone, I'm doing something, but it's not Alcoholics Anonymous. And I found if you're new here tonight, there's not one thing in this world in sobriety you have to go through alone. If I'm going through something alone in sobriety, it's because I've made a decision to do that. There's not one thing in this world I have to go through alone. And those 2 guys who bring me to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, the greatest singular event in my life. And I'm so glad there wasn't a guy standing at the door with a clipboard saying, Paul, check the box for what you want. I would have checked the box for not drinking. I would have been delighted. Once again, I've shortchanged myself. And it's funny, I went to that first meeting, and I know the meeting to this day, but I can't remember one word that was said at that meeting. But I left that meeting at this little feeling inside my stomach. I didn't know what it was that night, but I know what it is tonight. I see it in here. It was hope. I believe that's what Alcoholics Anonymous is. It's hope in human form. People get people sober. I've never seen God at a meeting yet, but I know He's here. And He uses this fellowship like a spiritual conduit to spread His love and grace. What's the old joke in AA? You know what's going on in this room later tonight? Nothing. But there's something going on in here now. It didn't happen. It's what I love AA, that everybody's got worth and value. Whether you're sober 1 day or 50 years. AA is the only place I know that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And everybody's got worth and value. Everybody brings something to the table. So I left that meeting, and in the last few minutes here, I'd like to tell you that I took the ball and scored a touchdown. I came in here with old ideas. Our book says, let go absolutely of your old ideas. And I didn't do that. I brought a lot of old ideas in here. Barroom mentality. Barroom mentality that might serve me well at 2 o'clock in the morning in some gin mill in New York City, but was not helping me in here. I had to learn to march to the beat of a different drum. And I'm here to tell you, you can fool them at the coffee pot at 7:30 at night. I've done it. How's it going, Paul? Oh, it's going wonderful. You know when untreated alcoholism would come to visit me? 2 o'clock in the morning. Could-haves, should-haves, would-haves, guilt, shame, remorse, another sleepless night, and quote-unquote sobriety. And every night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, there'd be this book that would appear magically on my bedside table. Where I Should Be in My Life by Now, by Paul McQ. You start reading that book at 3 o'clock in the morning with no drink and no program, you're ready to put a rope over the rafters. Now, I was doing unity. I was going to plenty of meetings. I realized many meetings make it easy, few make it hard, none make it impossible. Service, I said, I'm making more coffee than Juan Valdez. You kidding me? But I wouldn't do door number 3. I wouldn't do recovery. The steps seemed touchy-feely. I said, I do these steps. The next thing, I'll have wind chimes hanging up around the house, you know. I'll be wearing flip-flops even in the winter time, you know. I know I'm dating myself here. I'm joining Oprah's book club, you know. See, I want to be honest with you. I looked at the steps in the wall. I looked at them. You know what I looked at them as? Information. Yeah, I'm an alcoholic. I need God. I don't want the effects. I don't want the effects. I looked at them as purely information. I realized tonight, thank God, after coming through this program is a lot like life. It's lived forward and understood backwards. If you don't understand this program as you're going through, don't worry about it. I used to think that I had to intellectually agree with the steps before I do them. Bunch of nonsense. This is organic. It's living. It's breathing. You just do it. Sobriety, you got to get in there and get your arms around it. I looked at the steps as information. I realized tonight that the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, they're not informative. They're transformative. Now you can go through those steps willingly, or you can go through them kicking and screaming. But the book guarantees that at step 12, you're a different person than you were at step 1. Guarantees it. Now there was people talking about that. Chuck Chamberlain used to say, you have to have eyes to see and ears to hear. And I didn't. I wasn't listening, I wasn't seeing. And I bottomed out at 2.5 years off drink. I've been to jumping off place twice in my life. Once with drink and once with no drink and no program. It's a different type of pain, but pain nonetheless. I'm 2.5 years off drink. I'm doing unity. I'm doing service. My life is totally unmanageable. I didn't know much money when I came into AA. 2.5 years into AA, I'm thousands upon thousands of dollars in debt. And I know why today. I was still trying to fill the hole in my soul with outside stuff. Bad jacket, feel good for a half an hour. But I always end up the same equation. A friend of mine says, me on me. And I can't get me off of me. I'm shackled to self by the very nature of this disease. And a guy came up to me, not my sponsor, at a meeting one night. He says, Paul, can I talk to you for a second? I said, sure. He says, you're dying. And you're dying right in the middle of AA. He says, you know what you're like? You're like a starving man at a spiritual banquet. There's all this food on offer, and you're over here living on bread and water. That's exactly what I was doing. I still wasn't convinced. The next day, I'm driving under the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel onto a 6-lane road called the Gowanus Expressway. And a guy cut me off in rush hour traffic. This is 2.5 years off drink. I chase after him. I jam him against the guardrail. I'm blocking 3 lanes of traffic. Rush hour. I get out of the car. I don't care who's in the other car. Now, I'm not that guy. That's not who I am. I just punched a hole in the wall in my apartment about a week earlier. I'm not that guy. I never did this stuff drinking. I go back to the car. There's an Asian man sitting behind the wheel shaking. His wife's crying in the passenger seat, and his 3 children are crying in the back of the car. I got back in the car, my own car. I hit my head off the steering wheel. I said, I'm crazier off drink than I was on it. And in some respects, that's true. I drove to my sponsor's house in name only. Sober a long time, but you can only help somebody that wants to be helped. And I'd went as far as I could go in osmosis in this program. And he sat back, he used to smoke big cigars, and I told him, and he sat back and he says, how old were you when this happened? I said, how old? This happened 20 minutes ago. What do you mean, how old was I? Maybe I got to get you hooked on phonics, the Shamrock version, you know what I'm saying? I get like lost in translation here, you know? And he coined that phrase, Harry Tebow, there's a great friend of AA, a non-alcoholic, but understood alcoholism like few non-alcoholics do. His Majesty the baby. He says, you're like a child in a man's body. You've been tiptoeing around this program. He said, I'm going to tell you something. Number 1, they don't make cribs in your size. Number 2, you better get into this program. If you don't get into these steps, if you don't get into this program, your life's going to go. George Eliot, the writer, says, it's never too late to live the life you're meant to live. He said, if you don't get into this program, your life's going to go unlived, my friend, and that's on you in sobriety. That's exactly what I was doing. And against my better judgment, I get into the causes and effects of my drinking through the 12 steps of AA. Is it nice to do the program? Find out who you are and who you're not? Yeah. Get a full knowledge of your condition? Yeah. But when did my life catch on fire? When I turned around and tried to bring another man through the program. That's when great events came to pass in my life. My life's not about me today. I think somewhere, someday, I'm going to be asked one question. And it's not going to be, did you bring the Ferrari? It's going to be, what did you do with the gift that was given to you? Did you try to help any of my kids? I'm a pretty self-centered guy, but the most self-centered thing I could do would be to take this wonderful gift and keep it for myself. And if you're new here tonight, I don't know why you're here. That's between you and your higher power. But I'll tell you this. If you're here tonight, you've been called to the banquet. Don't do what I did and settle for crumbs on the table. Pull up a chair and partake of everything that's on offer here. There's a story, and some people would say it's a religious story, but it's really a spiritual story of the prodigal son. And we're all prodigal sons and prodigal daughters. And the story goes, the guy goes off, he's got a load of money, he burns his life to the ground, comes back home again, his father thinks he's dead, his father finds out that he's still alive, he's so rejoiceful, throws a big party for his son. Now I'd read that story many, many times, till someone pointed out to me, the son comes up to the house, but it never actually says if he goes into the house. Don't do that. Come all the way in. Sit all the way down and partake of everything in here. And get the life you're meant to live before drink took you down a different road. It is the only place I know in the world that you get to live 2 lives in 1 lifetime. Is my life perfect today? Far from it. If you're looking for a guy who's got a perfect life in AA, maybe next Saturday night, but not tonight. And early sobriety is not easy. I'm going to stop here. Early sobriety is not easy. Getting sober is probably the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life, except one other thing. Drink yourself to death. And the roller coaster goes up and the roller coaster goes down. Just don't get off. Stay on. And I'm not going to try to discount where you're at. You hear that old story. You go 10 miles into the forest. You got to go 10 miles out. If you're new here tonight, I don't care how deep and how dark and how painful the forest you're in is. A tells me, and I will tell you, you're just 12 steps away from a new life. That's all. You hear people say, oh, I came to AA and I got my life back. I don't want my life back. It sucked. I had it for 30 years. I got a whole brand new life. Are there people from the drinking days? Yes. But things are different today. My world today, because one day at a time, is built on concrete. And like the story I used to read my little daughter, there's days of spiritual warfare out there. And the world will huff and it'll puff. But if I stay close to AA, my sober house won't blow down. I just want to end on one story here. I know we're coming up at 9:30. And my wife paid me a beautiful compliment. I got 2 daughters. I got a 17-year-old daughter and I got a 3-year-old daughter. Now I know what you're thinking. I don't look old enough to have a 3-year-old daughter. I get that all the time. That was my wife's greatest fear when the baby was born. That she'd walk into the room and realise somebody's diaper needs changed and she wasn't sure it was mine or the baby's, you know. Sorry. You can put away the hot dogs. Nobody's eating any more tonight, you know. And so the little girl, she's a real, maybe you've seen me on it, she was such a Zoom bomber, you know. When during COVID, I'd be in my car with a flashlight, you know, it was like a proof of life hostage video, you know. And please send the money, these alcoholics are really serious, you know. And but my wife paid me a beautiful compliment. the other day. She says, you know what your daughter said when she woke up this morning? I said, what? She goes, she opened her eyes and she says, my daddy's going to put me in the back of the bicycle and bring me to the park today. I almost burst into tears. Now, because that's what I do. I was ready at work. I come home from work most days, and we live in Rockaway Beach on the boardwalk, and I put her in the back of the bicycle, and we ride down to the park, weather permitting. Now, that little girl's 3 years of age. She doesn't know Dr. Bob from Dr. Zeus. She doesn't know the 12 steps from but she knows in her little mind that her daddy's going to come home today and put her in the back of the bicycle and take her to the park. Now, if I go to the guy next door who's a non-alcoholic and say, hey, you know what my daughter said? He'd be like, what, do you want a medal for bringing your daughter to the park? But I tell you people, and I hope I never forget, because you understand, and I hope I never forget, you put one drink in me, there's nobody going to the park. I may end up living in the park, but there's nobody going to the park. Everything in my life is only because I'm a sober man and Alcoholics Anonymous. The day that I think I got that job, I'm going to get drunk again. The day I thought I got that promotion, I'm getting ready to get drunk again. Everything I have in my life is only because I'm a sober man and Alcoholics Anonymous. And this disease is so cunning, please guys, if you're new, it's so cunning, baffling and powerful. I got to make sure I'm right in the middle of AA. Because this disease always wants to push me to the edge. Like a glacial drift. It says in the big book about the ancient theory of the world being flat. In some respects, the AA world is a flat earth. If you go to the edge of AA, you go off. So I got to stay right. I don't care how long you're around this program. I got to stay right in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous, connected. This is a disease of disconnection. It wants me talking to me about me. That's a conversation I can't have. But I come in here and you people understand. So please stay here with us. Because this disease, if you're new, oh my God. You know what I found out here just in the last minute? The durability of this disease. The longevity. The tenacity. This disease will go, you want to get 30 days? Go ahead, get 30 days. I'll tell you what, get 90 days. I'll tell you what, get a year. Blow the candle off the cake. But you think this is over? Just like in the old Western movies, I'm going to double back and wait for you with the pass. Insidious, ambushing me. But coming here tonight, meeting these people, I know a lot of people, never met them before in my life, but I feel a part of. Because you understand me and I understand you. As my dear friend Liz B would always say, without you there's no me. So I thank you for my sobriety tonight, but it's like because I cannot do it alone. And I don't want to do it alone. Thank you so much.
Awesome job, Paul. Let's thank him one more time. Thank you for coming all the way out. Paul drove about 2.5 hours to get here. It's customary for us to form a line and thank our speakers personally. It means a lot to them. And don't forget the meeting after the meeting. Hang out with us. We're going to eat a bunch of food. We still got a lot of food left over. If you want to help us clean up a little bit, these chairs only in the front go on that rack there. Those tables stay there with the chairs. And we got a nice way of closing. And let's wrap it up at that. Take a moment of silence, use it however you like. If you care to join us once more with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Keep coming back.